Now, I actually kind of find it difficult to talk about this category because not only are the nominees so good, but I'm talking about movies that look so nice while I'm here with my digital camera filming myself in my room, so I'll improve my setup one day. Alright, so it's part 5 of my Oscar coverage. This time we're talking about cinematography. I have a lot of friends who know way more about cinematography than I do, so bear with me if I don't, really explain it as well as I think I can. Regardless, my criteria for this category is it's kind of more loose because there's so many components to this category that I can't really articulate all of them. But anyway, one of them is what I like to call like lighting and colors, like the overall, just the real look of the film, how well the movie uses like shadows and lights and different kinds of colors, saturations, all that stuff. And then there's positioning, that's framing, that's angles, stuff like that, camera movements. And finally, of course, you know me by now, relevance to the story. How well does the cinematography add to the tone, the mood, or the overall storytelling of the movie? Alright, so the nominees for Best Cinematography are The Grandmaster, Philippe Lesourd; Gravity, Emmanuel Lubezki; Inside Llewyn Davis, Bruno Del Bono; Nebraska, Pheidon Papamichael; and Prisoners, Roger Deakins. Now this is a fantastic list. They're all very, very different kinds of cinematography with different functions for each movie. And it is extremely hard to pick because, at a certain point, one is not better than the other. Because if you use, let's say, Nebraska's style of cinematography for a movie like Prisoners, it just wouldn't work as well and vice versa. But this is my duty and I have to pick, so at number 5, I'm going to go with Prisoners. Now, this list is good when Roger Deakins gets 5th place. I mean, he is like the closest thing cinematography has to like a superstar. Roger Deakins' work is always, always good. And the best way I can describe the cinematography of Prisoners is that it's very cold. It's very bleak. Like, I was watching the movie and I just felt cold physically because of the way he shoots this. It's very clinical, almost, I'd say. And the fact that it's so bleak and cold and stuff, when violence happens, when red suddenly enters the picture, it feels all the more stark. It feels very, very invasive. And Roger Deakins always has really, really good framing. Like, I remember watching Skyfall in 2012, and I'm marveling at his shots. But this is a much smaller film than Skyfall, and thus I think it really does benefit from the fact that he knows how to frame stuff really well. And this movie is very much about internal spaces and, spaces inside us. So, like, it really makes you feel like you're in those spaces. And the cinematography in Prisoners really supports the overall feeling of hopelessness in the movie. And I like how, as the movie keeps going on and people keep getting boxed into things, it really highlights that this movie is like a slow spiral into madness. So that was really cool. And again, Prisoners is not in 5th place because it's bad in any way. In fact, it's fantastic. I can't find anything wrong about it. It's just that the other 4 are really, really just as strong. So, yeah. So at 4th place, I'm going to put The Grandmaster. Now, this kind of cinematography, it's what I call very smoky cinematography. Like, it just feels like there's some sort of candle smoke in front of it and it gives this really nice saturated quality to everything. But the colors still really stand out. Like, a lot of the lighting here is very, it's kind of dim, but at the same time, there's so much color in everything so that, you get this really nice effect. But like the highlight of The Grandmaster is its fight scenes, and this is some of the best fight scenes cinematography I've ever seen. Like, martial arts sometimes it's so hard to capture. Like when Western films do it, it's always just kind of like either you do a wide shot or you do like really shaky cam, and none of those really captures the precision of martial arts really well. And the Grandmaster does this so, so well. The way this camera moves and just really tries to capture every single hit is just so precise, and it's so fun to watch. You've also got a ton of close-ups that are just like, how did they do that? Like, really just, small movements like hands and feet and like the hat and the rain and stuff. And it's really, really interesting to watch. The Grandmaster really is a tribute to martial arts, and the cinematography really supports this because it puts that first. And to be pretty honest, like, Roger Deakins' cinematography, while good, like, it's not completely new, but the Grandmaster, I thought it was so kind of fresh, especially in the scene of, martial arts films. So, number 4. Okay, at number 3, okay, actually, these next 3 were like interchanging for me. Like, at a certain point, this 3rd place was at 1st place, but I ended up like this. Anyway, 3rd place would be Inside Llewyn Davis. Now, inside Llewyn Davis's cinematography is extremely unique. I love it so much. It's like a faded photograph with like lots of tinges of green in it. Like it's just hard to describe. It's like almost embossed and it's very feathery. Like that's the way I can describe it. Inside Llewyn Davis also makes good use of its shadows. There's lots of deep shadows in this movie. Like the setting is this 1960s Greenwich Village, and inside the pub and stuff, it's very dark. It's very moody and stuff. And like Prisoners, I think the cinematography really focuses on characters inhabiting spaces. It's not necessarily about, the area, but the people in the areas. And you've got lots of small interiors here, and it's cool to see, just everyone squeezed into these corners. And overall, the cinematography here really does add to the overall tone of the film. Like the tone of the film is it rides that line again between drama and comedy, but it's also a very, very sad film. Like a lot of the movie is really just Llewyn Davis, encountering lots of problems, and somehow the cinematography captures that melancholy. It also matches the music perfectly, which again is representative of Llewyn Davis's character, and really does just feel like looking at an old album cover of like a vinyl record, and it's a really, really cool technique, and I love it so much. Okay, at second place, I'm going to put Gravity. Now, just a side note, virtual cinematography or CG cinematography is still completely valid. I know a lot of people are mad about the fact that, let's say, Avatar and Life of Pi won Best Cinematography. Their complaint is that it's all visual effects. Well, in this day and age, understand there's still a cinematographer's role in, visual effects. Like, just because you have CGI doesn't mean you can fire your cinematographer. He still has to make this stuff look presentable. At least that's how I understand it. And Emmanuel Lubezki in Gravity, he really makes like the glow of the earth and the stars and stuff really, really stand out. And he makes, you see all those reflections in Sandra Bullock's helmet and stuff. Like all of that, I think really add to the look. And I can attribute that to the cinematographer, not the visual effects people, because of like how it interacts with the characters, Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. And this movie isn't all CGI again. Like there's lots of interior shots, and these ones really look very saturated, like they're abandoned and stuff. And it really makes this film again, like Prisoners, makes it feel very hopeless. But I really do have to give props to cinematography here because of the camera movements. Like, space there's no up or down, so the way their camera just moves and swoops around through this movie is so cool because like you get weird angles and you get lots of extremely long tracking shots that just go from interior to exterior. Like you're at one point you're looking at the spaceship being torn apart, then the camera just slowly moves to the inside of Sandra Bullock's helmet, and you get to see her point of view, and then moves out again, and it's just all continuous. It's all very consistent. And this makes the film feel very weightless, and it makes it feel like anything can happen because there's literally no ground to stand on. So it really does highlight the fact that these characters are so distant from safety because, while the stars in the earth are bright, they're really, really distant, and the cinematography, I think, really makes that evident. And okay, at number one is a choice that I did not think I would be making, but here I am at number one, and I gotta give it to Nebraska. What I love so much about Nebraska cinematography is that, there are lots of movies nowadays that go for black and white. And it's never really justified because it kind of does feel like a gimmick. Like, the usual reasoning is that because this movie is set in an older time or it's old-fashioned, thus we can make it black and white. That doesn't usually work. However, in Nebraska, it's completely justified, I think, in my opinion. And they don't just use it for the sake of having a black and white movie. They have really, really good uses of open spaces and shadows and stuff. And every shot is framed like an old photograph, and that's what I thought was really, really cool with the black and white. When you look at an old black and white photo, and somehow there's just, like, it seems like it has depth, for some reason, and Nebraska really does have that. It has a really good sense of place with the way the camera just kind of really subtly moves around and, like, just swivels and stuff. Like, if you're looking at the inside of a house, it'll just kind of look at the corners and just make you know that, oh, you're here, and then you get that old photograph feel again. I don't know what I'm saying, but like that makes sense to me. And I feel so strongly about the cinematography here that I actually feel like this movie would not have worked if it were not in black and white. And I can never say that about other black and white movies, like even older movies. Like when you imagine older movies in color, like you think, oh yeah, okay, like you wouldn't mind seeing a remastered edition in color. But here in Nebraska, I think if they turn this into color, the entire feel of the movie would be completely lost because this movie is very, very somber. It's very slow, but at the same time, like, you're not bored watching it. I wasn't bored watching it because it really is meant to feel that way. And the character of Woody Grant, played by Bruce Dern, like, you feel like he lives in a black and white world, if that makes any sense. And the cinematography here really captures that complexity, the fact that stuff can be old but sentimental. All right, so Nebraska is my pick for who should win best cinematography, but I'm probably not. It's probably not gonna be coming true come Oscar night because I'm gonna have to say that the one who will win the Oscar is Gravity. Now, Prisoners and the Grandmaster aren't popular enough, so I don't think they're gonna get it. Inside Llewyn Davis, surprisingly for me, has been snubbed for a lot of things. Like, I think Oscar Isaac deserved the Best Actor nomination. I thought the movie deserved the Best Picture nomination. And Nebraska might just be dismissed as just another black and white movie, you know. But with Gravity, like, the Academy has shown that they're very partial to CG cinematography. Like, again, with Avatar and Life of Pi. And I guess maybe it's them trying to be hip and stuff. And I'm not saying Gravity doesn't deserve it. It was second place for me, but you know, I really do think they're gonna go that route again and give it to Gravity because it's so much about the visuals. All right, so what do you guys think about this year's nominees for best cinematography? Who do you think should win? Who do you think will win? Whatever you guys think, whether you agree with my choices or not, please leave a comment and let's have a conversation.